Another heretical cult has risen in the hive of Necromunda. Dispatch the Inquisition to ferret them out and destroy them.
Welcome back to the Forge of Sagas. Today we're going to be taking the Palanite Enforcers and Subjugator kits and converting them to make an Inquisitorial Retinue, ready to sweep through the Underhive and deliver the Imperium's justice. So without further ado, let's get started. To start off, we're going to assemble most of the torsos by the instructions. And the thing I really like about the Palanite Enforcers kit is it's easy to magnetize. A 1/8 inch by 1/16 inch magnet fits perfectly in the shoulder joint, and when you trim off a little bit of the arm, it'll fit completely flush. I think magnetizing is especially important in Necromunda, since over the course of a campaign, you can spend your credits on all sorts of toys to play with. The arms from this kit are equally easy to magnetize. Here I have one of the shields, and the first thing we're going to do to prep this for a magnet is to carve away this little nub. Normally this would slide right into the shoulder joint, but we already filled that with a magnet, so this is going to have to go. Make sure you do a quick dry fit before proceeding, just so you make sure you've got a nice, tight fit between the arms and the torso. Once you're happy with the fit, grab a 1/8 inch drill bit and make yourself a little hole for the magnet. Make sure you dry fit the magnet before you glue it in order to make sure you've drilled deep enough so that you'll have a nice, flush surface when you go to put the arm back on the torso. Here you can see I'm finished magnetizing the model, and I've already selected my first fun bit of war gear. This is eventually going to be my Subjugator Captain, and I figured this mace from the Age of Sigmar Sequitors kit would make a cool stand-in for his shock stave. Very inquisitorial weapon. As you can see, the magnets create a really nice, flush fit, and it'll allow me to swap out that war gear in case we were able to acquire more interesting options over the course of the campaign. However, magnetizing does mean that some parts might not fit 100% how they're supposed to. As you can see with the arms for this kneeling patrolman, he can't quite grip this pistol flashlight combo properly given how his arms are set up. So, in order to fix that, we're going to grab our knife and we're going to cut this piece in half. Not only does splitting these two parts up allow us to maintain basically the same pose we see on the box art, but it also allows us to use this pistol and flashlight as separate components. It's very possible that the patrolman these are going to go on could acquire other weapons over the course of the campaign, but that little flashlight in his hand is that flavorful reminder of his paranoia that there are enemies in the dark and he has to find them before they find him. When you make the kneeling patrolman, you're left with this extra set of standing legs, and I couldn't let those go to waste. To help complete the model, I grabbed this torso from the Highland Command Kit from Victoria Miniatures. The idea I had for this character was a nobleman of some stature in Necromunda who's joined this Inquisitorial Retinue in order to partake in his favorite sport, hunting Underhive scum. In order to help create an additional layer of stability, I added a paperclip pin to the torso and legs by drilling a small hole into each and then gluing in the paperclip. This is just going to help stabilize the piece and keep it aligned while I work around adding other details. Speaking of adding details, a great way to enhance any model from the 41st Millennium is with some bionics. I took some inspiration from Sir Hammerlock from Borderlands and decided that a mechanical leg would be a perfect addition to our nobleman. I'm going to grab my clippers and cut away the leg just below the knee. That way I can sculpt that knee to make sure that it's going to have a nice, clean fit with this new leg. This particular leg comes from the Tech Priest Engine Seer kit, and I like the fact that it had this durable, utilitarian feel. This nobleman is not about any nonsense or finery. He's out here to do what he does, and do it well. I then proceeded to alternate between dry fitting and making slight modifications to the leg with my knives and files. I apologize for this being a little out of focus, but you get the idea. Remember to be careful while you're doing this, otherwise you'll end up making an offering to the blood god like I did. Once you think you've got the model set, you can use the ground to help pose it correctly before you go and glue it into place. One of my favorite sources for heads is the Stormcast Sequitur kit, and when I saw this head with its big old mutton chops, I knew that this was the head for my nobleman. And where you have a grand old explorer, you need a grand old hat. This is the pith helmet from Victoria Miniatures, and I figured it would add that gentleman explorer feel that this model so desperately craved. However, it doesn't quite fit on the head that I had chosen, so we're going to have to make a few slight modifications. Once you corral the head, go ahead and make a slightly diagonal cut off the top, very shallow, just to give yourself the right angle for that hat to attach to. Here you can see after I've made the cut, and it fits very nicely. Still needs a little bit more of a trim here and there, but by the end of it, you've got a really nice looking head with a very nice looking hat. Now that we've got the core of the model assembled, I decided it was time to mix up a little bit of green stuff and fill in the gap between the torso and the legs. I stepped away for a second to grab my sculpting picks, that way I could push the green stuff all the way into the gap. Not only would this provide me with a smoother finish on the outside, but it would also serve to help bond together the torso and the legs just a little bit more. For his war gear, I turned to the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Cerberus Raider kit. I really liked this curved saber as well as the unique pistols that you can get. All of the arms from this kit fit really well with the Palanite Enforcers and Subjugators, and I find they're a really cool way to add little points of detail, like some additional bionics or fancy weapons that an Inquisitor's Retinue would have access to, but the standard Enforcers might not. Another fun little character I decided to create was a Cerberus Raider from the Adeptus Mechanicus, who had joined this Inquisitorial Retinue to distribute his own form of binaric justice against the Heretic and the Xenos. I apologize for this being out of shot, but what I was doing here was creating a little sausage of green stuff and then putting it on the neck of the Palanite Enforcer. This would give me a little bit more flexibility in how I attach the head, and it would also allow me to continue that scarf/balaclava that's on the back of his head around to the front of the model and really make this head look like it belongs. Once I was happy with the position of the head, I came in with my sculpting picks and just added a few little ridges to show the different folds of his balaclava as it wraps around his neck. Necromunda's trading post allows you to equip your fighters with a wide variety of different weapons such as a melt-a-gun or a plasma gun, but these are not included in the base Palanite kit. My personal favorite is this Grey Knight's Flamer, but across the board I find that Space Marine weapons, whether they're from the Firstborn or Primaris line like this Reaver knife, fit really nicely onto the Enforcer arms. Here I have one of the stub gun hands from the Palanite Enforcer kit, and we can compare it against this Grey Knight Strike Marine hand. They're pretty much the same size in the wrist. All we have to do is shave back a little bit of the front of the hand so that it'll fit under the armored gauntlet. Creating really fun and unique characters like the two you've already seen was my favorite part of this project. However, the conversion techniques I used to make all the different arms or weapon choices is basically the same, so I'm not going to bore you by showing you the exact same technique over and over and over again. At the end of the video, I will do a showcase with all 12 members of my Inquisitorial Retinue, along with a list of the parts that I used to make them. However, we're going to get back to the video with some of the techniques I used on all of them to give them those robes that the Inquisition is so fond of. To create the flowing robes that I felt my Inquisitorial Retinue needed, I rolled out a thin sheet of green stuff and then tried to apply it to cover up this little tunic edge while leaving the little tabard in the front alone. You can see that I'm struggling a bit here, and that's because this is only my second time trying this. To be honest, my green stuff sculpting still needs a lot of work, so if you want to learn how to sculpt really great capes or cloth, I suggest scanning YouTube for other videos that are dedicated specifically to that topic. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but it's one of those skills that really takes a lot of time and practice to get right, but for a novice, I didn't do too poorly. To help me clean up a few rough areas, I grabbed some Water Waves resin from Woodland Scenics. This product is meant to be applied over their different water products to help create waves, but it's nice and thin and it slides around nicely and dries to a very smooth finish, so I figured I could use it here to help cheat a little bit and recover from some of the things that I didn't quite do well. It took a few layers, but once it was all primed, it wasn't a half bad result. It's no substitute for good sculpting, but in a pinch, it'll do. Another way to hide any imperfections that you have is to grab the details from the Palanite kit, such as this grenade rack or any of the pouches that comes with it, and superglue them over any areas that you decide, that doesn't look quite right, I'm going to try and hide this. The last little detail I added was this skull and dagger pin from Victoria Miniatures. Comes with that nice little nub, so all you have to do is drill a hole into the center of the chest plate and glue it in place. It's really simple. I thought it added just a little bit more flair and character to the model, and maybe I can use this as my Inquisitor's signet. He's not a member of the gang yet, but, over the course of the campaign, maybe he'll show his face. Who knows? But that's a subject for a future build. For now, let's go ahead and get on to the showcase of all of the members of my Inquisitorial Retinue. There you have it, my inquisitorial take on the Palanite Enforcers. If there's anything else you'd like to see as I delve more into Necromunda, whether that's terrain or conversions for some of the dramatis persona that feature across the different books, let me know in the comments. Make sure that you like and subscribe to keep up to date on all of our future content. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again the next time we ignite the Forge of Sagas.